Hello, I hope you enjoyed the Temagami canoe trip video. Been getting a lot of positive comments. A couple questions about gear also, so that's exactly what I'm going to go over today. First part of the video is going to be talking about gear and philosophy, and the second half is I'll take a look at the map and show you the route we took and some tricks and tips on if anyone wants to do the route themselves. So let's first start talking about gear is the philosophy and pre-trip planning. So before I go on any trip, I look at a couple different specifications and what I'm trying to achieve. So the goal with this trip was we wanted to get remote, we wanted to do some fishing, and we wanted to explore a park we hadn't seen before. We've done Algonquin multiple times, we've done Killarney before too. So we wanted to challenge. It's always a difficulty when you're planning to try to figure out if you want to go high speed and go fast, or if you want to go slower speed, do more fishing, more camp life stuff. We kind of tried to go probably somewhere in the middle this trip, and that may have caused some of our problem. But first thing when it came to pre-trip planning is temperature. So the temps on this trip should have been between about 50 at night and 70 during the day, which it was. From what the locals are telling us, everything was ahead of the season by about 10 days this year. So it was a little bit warmer than what we had expected. The first couple of days, a lot higher sun exposure and a lot warmer, but I felt prepared and good to go there. It did get a little bit chillier than what the average temps would typically show this time of year. It got down to the low 30s, but we were completely prepared for that, no problem. The other thing too is typically June in this part of Canada receives about half the days get rainfall. So we had to expect at least 4 or 5 days of rain, which luckily we lucked out and only really had some one day and then on the way out we got rained on too. I knew sun exposure was going to be really high also. Just because we're on the water, you're an open decked canoe, so you're definitely going to have a lot of sun exposure. Next thing on the environmental factors I always look at is what about wildlife and bugs? So bugs we knew were going to be bad. I was hoping we would have if we would have been 1 week earlier, we probably would have had less black flies, but we hit right in the middle of when they were all hatching, peak black fly season. Very few mosquitoes, pretty much all black flies. Other wildlife to be concerned about was there is a bear population in this area. We were told that my research we would run into bears. We never saw a bear. We saw some bear droppings once or twice, but not as frequently as what I had expected. There were definitely wolves present. You're never going to probably see them or have any problems. And the little bears, the squirrels, the chipmunks, things like that will get into your gear and chew it all up. We actually didn't have very many of that. One thing I would say about bears and the little bear problems is those are common in campsites where people frequent and they leave crumbs and food. So in my opinion, you're a lot more likely to see probably a bear on the first campsite right off an access lake than you are 20 clicks down a river. The bears become habituated and they're going to go to the normal spots over and over again. So we knew we still had to hang our bear bag though. So next up was terrain. I knew it was going to be rough. I knew it was going to be less managed. The Jeff's maps, which I'm going to show later, classifies portages as either red or black. Black being harder than red or less maintained. Every single portage in the entire Temagami region is black. So I think our biggest mistake was our weight philosophy. We went in with the mindset that our canoes are light so we could pack more gear, right? That makes sense because we did an 8-day trip with a 45-pound canoe and now we have a 26, 27-pound canoe. So if we carry an extra 5 to 10 pounds of gear, piece of cake, it'll still be like we're carrying less weight. That would have been true and probably not that big of a deal if the portages were a lot simpler. Simply loading and unloading the canoe is very treacherous and difficult. A lot of the portages you have to exit right next to a waterfall, and lifting a 60-pound pack out of the canoe while trying to grab the canoe at the same time is interesting. Or a lot of the portages you get taken out on, as you've seen in my video, I call them oil rocks, where they're just covered in this snot slime and you're standing in the water falling all over the place trying to hold the canoe, make sure it doesn't go down the waterfall and pulling your pack out. It's not easy. So the weight of the pack, I would have definitely reduced it. So first up is canoeing gear, what I brought in the boat and used with the pack boat. If you got more questions about the pack boat, take a look at my video I did a couple months ago, and I talked all about the specifications. So first up was the Warner Carbon Camino. This is a 2-piece paddle made in the US, super nice, very lightweight, very strong. I was very impressed with this. I figured it would get all like scratched and beat up and bent and stuff like that, but it's been bashed against rocks and the edge still looks brand new. So really impressed with this. It's real durable and I expect it to last a really long time. So good piece of kit right here. Next up was life jacket. Of course, you need to have a good life jacket. This is the Stolquist, I don't know what the model is, Drifter, that's the model. Good life jacket, no problem. One thing I wish I would have had though is I like Joe's life jacket a lot. He had a Stoltwish fisherman one that had the pockets that flap down. And what I would have liked to have done is had a small fishing kit in a pocket, just a few lures, so I didn't have to pull out my full big kit. So that might be something I would change up for and look at in the future. Next up, tow rope. This is just a piece of webbing that I stitched together, and I put a carabiner on it. I attached this to the front thwart, and then tied it to the middle thwart right in front of me, and that just gives me something to pull the nose down on when I'm portaging it. So lightweight, it worked, no problems there. Next up, as far as canoe gear, was the yoke. And this was, at first, the bane of our existence. We thought that we couldn't single portage these things at all. We were wrong. We had it set up wrong. What I was doing incorrectly in the video is I would take the paddle and I would put it into the canoe with gear ties, which is this. It's like a big rubber twisty tie thing. I'd put the paddle into the canoe, and you'll see in the video a couple times I say the nose keeps getting pushed in the ground. The problem was my pack wasn't hitting the seat, it was hitting the paddle. And I guess we just weren't thinking clearly. So as soon as we took the paddle out, everything became 10 times easier, and you could actually single carry it as long as the portage wasn't too technical. So here's the yoke. By about day 6, I finally figured out you don't need to undo the screws every single time. You can actually just hook it onto the side of the canoe and then just push the side of the canoe and it kind of clips in. I put duct tape on the canoe, so I mark exactly where it needs to go, and then these little grippy things have duct tape on them too, so they don't slip around. The other thing I did with the yoke is I took some duct tape and then I put some shoe goo on top of it, so just like made like some sticky parts on here, because otherwise just raw carbon on the like nylon straps of your backpack, it was sliding all over the place. And with this, it's staying put, not going anywhere. For this trip, I used a 2-pack system, a big portage pack, and then a day pack. I really like this pack. This is the Terra Humera by Hill People Gear. It's got a really nice shoulder harness. It's got a nice big open zip that goes right down the middle. And this, what I would do is put basically right between my legs when I was canoeing, and I could get to everything I needed. Fishing gear, food, snacks, water purification, all that kind of stuff. It's a good pack. I like the design. What we originally wanted to do was do some day hikes. There's some old growth forest, there's Maple Mountain. My original overestimation of trip planning, I thought we could hit up both of those, and that's why I wanted to have a day pack with a nice shoulder harness that we could go and hike a few clicks and be nice. On the shoulder harness, I had my Canoe core watch, and then I had the Peak Designs camera clip, because I thought we would go on the day hike, take pictures, all that fun stuff, and it's nice to have your watch handy so you can tell what time it is. I hate wearing a watch on my hand when I'm trying to put gloves on and off and have multiple layers. So I thought this was a great idea. The problem that ended up with this is when we would try to single carry, I'd put this, which has a lot of heavy stuff, including my camera, water bottle, food, snacks, all that kind of stuff, put that at the top of the pack. So the problem is I'd have like a 7-8 pound heavy weight at the top of the pack, and it'd be going like this when I'm trying to carry the pack with this in it. So a lot of times what we end up doing is on more of the technical portages, we would do canoe pack first, and then we would leave the day pack out and use this to carry with the canoe. So this provided a little bit of padding and support for the yoke to rest on, and it kept the weight balance transferred down a lot. If I was to do this trip again, I definitely like the day pack concept, or at least the one stuff sack where you can get to your stuff. But I would probably, I'm gonna probably make my own out of like a polyurethane type coated water resistant fabric. This 500D, it soaks up the water, and there's a padding in the back right here that soaks up the water, and when it gets wet, either from rain or just from splashing the boat, it probably added another 2 to 3 pounds of just water weight of this thing being wet. So cool concept with the main zipper, like having the small pack, but I'm probably gonna do something a little different as far as the material choice. So for my main pack, I used the Sea-Line 115 liter dry bag. Really like this pack. I've used it now for 2 different trips. Like it a lot. Super durable. I've dropped this on rocks. I've kicked the thing. I've slid it down some rock faces. No problem. The fabric's very durable. I expect it to last at least a couple more years easily. It's got a really nice kind of frame sheet in it. Really good load lifters. The one thing I really like is on the hip belt, there is a strap right here that pulls in like this, and it really stabilizes the load and doesn't make it slush around a lot. It is a little heavy, it's like 6 pounds, but for a canoe trip, for the durability of it, for unloading it out of the canoe and then dropping it onto rocks, I like it a lot. It works good, fits everything I need. It's just like a giant dumpster bag. You just throw all kinds of stuff in there. You don't have to be all particular about how things are fit in there like a Tetris puzzle. So like it a lot, no real complaints with it. I'll continue to use it into the future. Originally, I had taken some gear ties here at the bottom, and I was gonna carry my tripod externally because I thought I'd be using that all the time. With the number of portages we ended up doing, I did not carry it externally. I actually just shoved the tripod inside of the pack and ended up not using it nearly as much as what I thought I would. But yeah, it's a really good pack. There's 2 buckles right here. I put a little strap here, and I connect my PFD here on the back, my life jacket. That way I don't have to carry it or try to wear it or anything else like that. So that pack works really, really well. So next up is clothing, and in my opinion, the most important piece of clothing is what you keep on your feet. I've been using these. These are the Salomon X Ultra trail running shoes. They're super lightweight. They dry out pretty well. They got really good traction. These definitely need a cleaning. These use the traditional shoelace ones. They come with the fancy Kevlar ones if you want. I've actually used these shoes so much and they've been so wet for so long that the original laces dry rotted and don't work anymore, so I had to replace it with paracord. But good pair of shoes. I like them a lot. Excellent traction. On some of the slime rocks, I didn't quite have the traction I needed. I've looked around and I've read some people using, taking like portage boots and then putting felted fly fisherman soles on. So if I was to do another river trip with a bunch of rocks and slippy rocks and stuff like that, that might be an option. But otherwise, these work pretty well, had good traction, everything like that. When you get to camp tonight, my feet were soaking wet. So I like to use these. These are Merrell barefoot shoes. They're also my little gym shoes. They work quite well. They're lightweight enough. I think they weigh ½ pound, but it just gives my feet a chance to dry out and I can walk around camp while those are soaking wet. For socks, I used lightweight Defeat running socks. See my foot care video if you want more info on those. And then I also used these for the first time. These are neoprene socks because I had thought the water was going to be super cold and like almost unbearable for your feet to be in because their ice out was only 3 weeks prior to when we were there. In reality, by midday, it wasn't that cold, but definitely in the morning when getting your feet wet and stuff in and out of the canoe, these were helpful. My feet never were cold with those on. Other small accessories. I had 2 sets of gloves. One were these neoprene ones by NRS. They work pretty good. I only used them once. It was, like I said, warmer this trip than what I thought it was going to be. When it was raining, it was like 60 degrees. I was expecting it to be like 40 in rain, like we usually get on our trips. So I'd still probably bring these, but didn't use them that much. What I did use a whole bunch are these are Magpul tactical gloves. They work really well. They have a full leather palm, then like lightly padded knuckles. These work good just for around camp, cutting firewood, that kind of stuff. Other small accessory stuff is I have just like a quick dry black hat by Arc'teryx, works good. Of course, black attracts flies, but whatever, all my stuff's black. First time I've used this is a buff, merino wool buff. I like this, used it a lot. It was either around my neck or up over my ears. Worked pretty well. Here's my tried and true smart wool beanie. I actually didn't use this. I just used the buff. It never got cold enough, but I'd probably still bring it just because I like to have a little bit of extra warmth in my head if possible. On to clothes stuff. First up, Under Armour underwear, not pictured. I don't know where those are. They're all in the laundry. These are Under Armour like lightweight running shorts. They had a mesh liner. I cut them out because I don't like those mesh liners in the shorts, but I do like these shorts a lot. They dry super fast. They're short enough that they don't like get bound up around your knees when you're trying to lift your legs over rocks. And the nice thing about these ones is they have a little mesh pocket, so actual hand pockets I can put stuff in. Rain gear, same stuff I always use. Arc'teryx rain pants. I actually didn't use these when it was raining. Like I said, it was warm. If it's above 50, my legs are just going to be wet. It doesn't. I generate enough heat and we're moving enough that I don't get cold. So above 50, usually just run with the shorts. My legs get wet. If it's below that, I would have definitely whipped out the pants. Beta AR, Arc'teryx rain jacket. Had for years. Works great. No complaints. Shirt. This is an old shirt. It's a merino wool Kuyu shirt. It works fine. Any merino wool t-shirt would work. Whatever, it does fine. So next up, pants. These are the Arc'teryx Rampart pants. And these might be my least favorite piece of gear that I had on this trip. The positives, material's good, dries quick. The pocket layout is awesome. I like the side pocket, and then there's just like an open dump pocket on the side. That works good, like that a lot. The other cool thing, and I did this myself, but I stitched a little loop into the pocket, into like the main pocket right here, and my little fire steel slides right down in there right now, because what drives me nuts is when you're walking and your fire steel is like sideways in your pocket and it like is in your leg. That gets annoying. So I made the little loop so fire steel's up and down. That worked awesome. I did like that quite a bit. So those are the positives. The negatives with these pants: first, they stretched a ton. They went from a 36-inch waist to like a 42-inch waist. The material stretched a ton over wearing them for 8 days. And then the biggest #1 complaint I have is the bottom. The bottom of these pants are garbage. They're way too big. And what happens is when you get in and out of the canoe or you're walking on wet brush, is this gets soaked. And then I actually tripped on my own pants. The pant leg was going around like this enough that I ended up tripping on them. So not a fan. The other thing I tried, just because the bottoms are open and I didn't want black flies flying up them, is I stitched in an elastic cord into the base of the pants so you can go like that, and then go like this. The only problem with this is if your foot gets in the water and then you go to swing your leg into your canoe, the bottom of your pant has like a half gallon of water in it that then is in your canoe and then leaking out of your pants for the next 20 minutes. So that's a fun feature. I don't know what the best solution would be for like canoe portage pants where you know below the knee they're going to be wet all the time, but yet you still want pants. It almost like, I'm trying to think of something I would design, and it would almost be like yoga pants with cargo pockets. I know that sounds ridiculous, but something like that. I gotta find a pant that has a better, more tapered leg to it and a better cinch system at the bottom. So let me know, guys, if you got any suggestions, because so far I haven't found a hiking pant that I like enough to be using with canoe trip. All right, next piece. Arc'teryx wind jacket, wind shirt, the Squamish hoodie, I believe. Love this thing, used it for years, no complaints. Would definitely bring it again. It works fine, you've seen it in other videos. Since it did get down to the low 30s once or twice, but warmed up pretty quick, I was happy I did bring a down jacket. This is the Kuyu dry down puffy. Had it for years, worked great, no complaints. Next up, this is just a long sleeve, like zippered, hand pocketed, lightweight fleece shirt from Arc'teryx. I don't even know what model it is. It's got this nice, lovely big burn stain in the middle from cedar. Works fine. I like having a long sleeve, kind of lightweight fleece shirt when it was cooler. One more piece. This was not a winner. Not a fan. The more I read, the more I was concerned about the black flies. I'd never experienced super bad black fly conditions, so I was like, oh, well, everyone can suggest let's do a bug shirt. Yeah, you need one of these. These are cool. It's not bad. The cut is okay. It's cut fine. The pocket layout's fine. The hood needs to be about another 1.5 to 2 inches longer. It's a little small for my opinion. But the material they made it so it's like bug-proof material that mosquito can't bite through it. But it was also, I thought, incredibly warm. Even with the ventilation down the side, I was sweating up a storm. I wouldn't bring this again, and I'm probably gonna sell it. Not a fan, at least based on my experience. What I think works better personally for me would be this shirt. I've used this shirt before on many trips. If the bugs are bad, which they're not constantly bad all the time, I could just use this shirt, flip up the collar, put a bug net on my head, and then these sleeves button up pretty tight. I wouldn't be too concerned about the black flies. So I'd rather have that ability than trying to like wear this, because that's just too warm, too hot, and it's really only single purpose type of piece of clothing. So not a fan of that. So next up is tools. As you saw in the video, we did catch some fish. I caught, of course, more than Joe. Yes, he did catch a bigger fish, but I caught a higher quantity of fish. Going into this trip, we were expecting to do brook trout in the river system, and then hopefully get some pike, and maybe even have the ability to do some trolling in the lakes. It ends up that because our time calculations were all messed up, we didn't have nearly as much time as what we thought we would have in order to do fishing. So the one thing I would say with fishing gear overall is less. As far as tackle, I would bring less. So let's look at the gear. My main weapon for the fishing trip was this. This is the St. Croix Avid rod. This is a 6.5 foot medium action rod. Awesome rod, super lightweight, handles good, good sensitivity, even little tiny fish, and using ultralight like 0 and 1 MEPS, no problem. Cast great, very sensitive. The problem, however, is I should have got a 6-foot rod instead of a 6.5-foot rod, because the 6-foot rod fits into the canoe better, and with this being 6.5 feet, the reel is always bouncing off your knee, which is really annoying. If it's 6 feet, it fits a lot better, so my mistake. For the reel, this is the Shimano Stratic CI4 Plus 2500 size, and I have a 10-pound braided line, I think it's fire line, on it. Good system. I didn't have any issues with it. I like it a lot. Super lightweight, kind of expensive and high-end, but it works very well. My backup rod, which Joe said, oh, you don't need to bring a backup rod. Why are you bringing 2 different rods? Well, on 8 days, our typical loss is at least 1 fishing rod, so we're keeping with that record. Here's my backup, a little bit less expensive. This is a collapsible rod. It's called the Proton. I've used it before on fishing trips a couple times before. It's okay. It's fiberglass. It's 20 bucks off eBay or off Amazon. It works okay. And then I have a semi-decent reel. This is the Shimano Symmetry 2500. Again, 10-pound braided line. Joe said this reel doesn't work well, but I think he's crazy. So it works just fine. Last year, fishing out of the canoe locally around here, I caught like a 4.5, maybe even 5-pound bass. I mean, it was a big one. And trying to get it in the canoe was challenging. The problem with the boat is they kind of go like this, a substantial amount if you're only one guy in it. Trying to hold the rod up here and pick up the fish like this while it's thrashing around is difficult. So I go, oh, well, if I get a big pike, a 24-inch pike, I'm gonna need a net. So I got this and bought it. This is from a company called Fish Pond. It's carbon fiber, nylon meshed net, and it's really super nice. Like, no complaints. It's really nice. I've used it now to catch bass out of the canoe, but would not bring this. It's a pain in the butt trying to pull this in and out of the portage pack, and it's just one more item. It's not very heavy, but it's not needed. If I caught a big enough pike, I would have just put on a glove and grabbed its tail and pulled it in the boat. So whatever. Here's the fishing tackle. I brought way too much. This is like a 3-pound tackle box with all the steel sinkers I have in here for lake trout fishing. So I brought way too much stuff. What I ended up using about the majority of the time was the same stuff I used around here. Rapala UL Minnow, I was catching those perch on those left and right, and then the black Meps Fury, I was using those for the brook trout. I ended up catching one with it, but that's what I mainly used. We weren't in the best, what I would consider where I've normally caught pike territory on the lakes, and we were just not in the right spots. So no pike, whatever. For fish, additionally, fillet knife. We were really stupid. We brought 2 fillet knives. Like, why do you need 2? We thought we'd be catching so many fish, we might actually need 2 fillet knives. This is a Mora fillet knife. It works just fine. I like this one a lot because the sheath works really good. It's plastic. It's not going anywhere. It works good enough. I wish the steel was a little thinner so it would bend better, but whatever. I thought I would be dealing with pike this big and fighting with their teeth and stuff, so I bought these crazy overkill pliers for what I'm doing. They're ginormous. These are not needed. I probably could have got away with a little smaller pair. The nice thing is though, they have a pair of cutters in the middle, so it's easy to cut the line. Not needed. And it was one more thing, like I didn't ever figure out how to rig this up to my life vest, so not needed. I'll probably get a smaller pair and a different life vest to put them on. So that's it for fishing gear and tackle. Not much to report there. We didn't catch very many fish, so can't claim that I'm an expert there. Cutting tools. Joe had a really nice saw. You saw it in his video, I'm sure. For me, I use 2 things. One, this is like my go-to knife for everything. This is the Fallen F1. It's a stainless steel, convex, Swedish pilot survival knife. No complaints. Works great. Used it for quite a while now. Good grip. The sheath is awesome. It might feel like stupid, cheap, and chintzy when you first get it. It's like a plastic sheath that shakes a little bit, but it's awesome because it's very secure with the snap. There's no way it's coming out, and yeah, I like it a lot. It's unobtrusive. You don't notice it's there, but it works well. To go with that, just one little modification. Here's my belt I use with my pants. It's just a nylon belt I made out of 1-inch tubular webbing, and I put 2 little like metal D-rings. But the one little modification I've made with this is I stitched a piece, you probably can't see it, but I stitched a piece of Velcro on this. So what always drives me nuts is when you're carrying a knife and you're walking around and stuff, it always tends to slide around all over your belt, and it flops forward and flops back and all that. So all I got to do with this now is I put the knife in the middle, put the piece of Velcro on, and now your knife doesn't go anywhere, and it stays put and stays in the same location all the time, which is kind of nice. For wood processing, this is the Gransfors Brooks Outdoor Axe. I like this a lot. It's a little rusty now from sitting in the damp inside of the portage pack for a while. I'll have to clean it up, but works really good. I would bring it again if Joe's bringing a saw. It works nice. It works more like feels like a roofing hammer, and you can actually use it with two hands if you're chopping at a tree. So it works really good, lightweight, like it a lot, no complaints there. Next up, I call this the accessories, organization, navigation, and camera gear. So a random smattering of stuff. It's important when you got this much stuff you're taking with you to try to stay organized. So to stay organized, I use a bunch of little stuff sacks. So here's my main one I use. I made this myself, still nylon, it's got a zipper. This is where I keep all my small stuff. So this has, if you see my accessories video, I have another video where I keep in this. Let's see, fire starter, compass, med kit, headlamp, lighter, batteries, pack towel, sunscreen, stuff like that. Just little things, keep organized in there. So my next pouch here is camera gear and accessories. Let's talk about camera and filming real quick. I film on a Nikon DSLR D5500, and then a lot of the scenes at camp, I put a Rode VideoMic Pro on it. It's got a fuzzy rabbit on it, and it's able to cut down on the wind noise as a little bit better quality at camp. It's too big of a pain in the butt to try to film with that in the canoe, so a lot of times I'm just using the built-in speakers when I'm filming in the canoe. For camera gear, speaking of in the canoe, to protect the DSLR, I use a 4-liter Sea to Summit dry sack, and it fits that camera just perfectly. A little bit of room to spare, works really good, and that's what keeps the camera from getting killed by the water. I also filmed on a GoPro Hero 4, and the only thing I brought with this was just the head mount, and then I used a couple times a mount that would go on the thwart in front of me in the canoe. Back to the organization of camera gear. I put all my extra camera gear in here, so like the mic would go in here when I'm not using it. And I get a lot of questions. It's you know, how much power do you need for electronics and stuff? And probably way less than what I brought. So I brought 4 DSLR Nikon batteries. I ended up only using about 2, and then halfway down on the 3rd. And the 4th one I never even touched. I'd still bring it just in case. I brought this thing. This is a 10,000 milliamp extra battery backup power thing. It weighs 10 ounces. It's stupid. I'll never bring this thing. I used it to charge my cell phone like once, so not needed. GoPro batteries, I brought 4 of them. They die, they don't last very long, they're not very good. I'd still bring that many. Extra cords and stuff like that. But yeah, it's pretty spot on with the power. I did use, if I was gonna do one thing differently electronically, I would just bring a smaller, like little USB size stick thing of this versus the big giant battery. Not needed for the length of trip that I went on. More organization stuff. Next up, I organized this, and it's important to have things coded. So this one's got the red cord, this one's got the black cord. That's how I can keep the two differentiated. This is called the extra stuff one. This is my do-it-all stuff. So here's like extra fishing garbage. There's some duct tape, there's extra leaders, stuff like that. Didn't need that. Alcohol fuel. Brought a whole extra bottle. Didn't need that. We'll talk about cooking in a minute. Camp permit I threw in here. Repair kit. So I wanted to make sure that in case something broke out there, we could at least get some bit of repair completed. I have a stick of 2 epoxy, JB Weld clear epoxy, works really well. Some tape, some gloves, and some sandpaper. If I can't fix it with this glue, we got a real problem. This whole little emergency patch kit only weighs like 3-4 ounces, so it's pretty lightweight. And then I brought extra aqua mirror drops because my ones that I was using was about out. So there's the extra junk, little pouch. Speaking of aqua mirror drops, here's my little stuff sack, again, homemade by me. This is my snack stuff sack. So every day I'd pull food out of my main food bag, put it in here, keep it towards the top of the pack. And this is also where I would keep my aqua mirror drops. So this is what I use for water purification. And the nice thing about the solo canoe is it's really easy. You can paddle, put your drops down right between your legs, do the drops, get water right out of the lake as you're paddling, and it's real easy to do water in the canoe. Speaking of water, there's two things I used for water bottle. This is a just regular smart water bottle, 1 liter. Thing I like about this, since it's real tall and skinny, it fits quite well into the Terrahumera pockets. Kind of a shorter, fatter bottle like the Nalgene's don't fit quite as well. And then for extra water, I brought a 2 liter platypus. I basically use this to like fill up at camp at night, so I'd have water during camp and then in the morning. This is a really stupid little tiny trick, but it is important. The one thing that's really hard to field fabricate out in the field is an extra bottle cap, and it's extremely easy to have one of these roll down into a crack, or you forget it or whatever. Or what happened this time is I dropped this and the cap split and spewed water all over the place. So the cap is busted, which basically means this is useless. But I was smart and I saved the cap from the whiskey bottle the first night as a backup bottle cap. So I always try to carry at least one extra backup bottle cap. On to the next subject. For organization inside the canoe, I use the gear ties, like a giant bendy rubber thing. And I use it for two things. One, to tie my fishing pole in. So I like to leave the fishing pole set up so we could fish whenever we got to the end of a portage out of rapid. You just untie it real quick and you can fish, piece of cake. I was tying the paddle in with these, which that works, but you don't really need to tie the paddle in, and that's what was causing some of the portage problems. The other cool thing you can do is you control with these. If you put your fishing pole off to the side, tie it onto the thwart with one of these, and then you control with it. I did that a little bit. So on to shelter and sleep gear now. For any time I'm camping with more than myself, and we know it's going to rain, which we knew it was going to rain, I always bring a tarp. This is old blue, that's what we call it. It is a, like 9x10 sil nylon tarp. It weighs in a little over 1.5 pounds once you add in all the cord, and there's a ton of cord in here because I like to set it up like you saw in the video, like the pyramid style. That works awesome when it's just lightly raining and you want to set up underneath of it. It gives you tons of room. The one thing I did different this time versus previous times with this tarp is I used a rope called Zing It, which is like a tree climber's throw bag rope. I used that and I got some really long pieces and I got it set up real nice. Probably going to do a separate video on how to set it up because I think I got the system really dialed in to do it real quick. My other piece of kind of camp life part is the chair under the tarp. It's nice to have a place to sit instead of sitting on the dirt and the ground. This is just an REI camp chair. It's about 1 pound or so, I think. I don't know, it feels like 1 pound. It works really good. The stupid thing that it comes with is a stuff sack, which was garbage. So I took this band, I made a buckle and elastic, and I just rope it around here. It's much more quick and efficient than trying to shove it into a stuff sack. It works really nice, like the chair, I've been using it for years. Would not bring for backpacking, but yes, for a canoe trip. I also bring then for like being comfortable in the camp shelter, old blue foam pad, fan the flame, sit on, and then usually I dry my feet out. This is just a piece of old Reflectix. It weighs, these are like next to nothing. And just like to stand on this and dry my feet out, and this goes under the chair to keep your butt warm. My main shelter, as you saw in the video, is the Hilleberg Nyack. It's a 1.5 person freestanding tent. I liked it, it was good, it ventilated well, it was comfortable. I also wanted a little bit bigger tent in case the bugs just became so bad that Joe and I did not want to sit by a fire. We had a fully bug enclosed tent that 2 people could sit in and hang out or whatever. So it worked well. I like the tent, no complaints. Probably use it again for any canoe trip. It's a little bit heavy, probably for 1 person backpacking, but worked great for the canoe trip. My sleep system rarely, if ever, changes. I got the X-Ped inflatable pillow. Wow, it really needs a wash. It's gross. I use the Thermarest X-Therm. It gets a lot more compact than this. Great sleeping pad. Never had a problem with it. And then you can watch my other video. I didn't bring it down, but here's the Catabatic Gear top quilt. It fits in this stuff sack, and that's what I use. It's a 15-degree quilt, which is probably completely overkill for how warm it is, but I don't really have a good 30-degree or 40-degree quilt, so it works just as fine. You just got to ventilate it a little bit more and sometimes stick your feet out the end when it gets too warm. But no complaints there with the shelter sleep gear. I feel like I really had that dialed in. Okay, now on to my favorite part, food. So I did food a little bit different than what I've done in the past. I divided, storage-wise, I divided up into 3 stacks. I did the snack bag, the dinner bag, and then the lunch bag, which is empty now. For snacks, standard fare, same thing. You guys know what I eat. Oreos, Snickers, peanut M&Ms were like a huge craving this trip. The one thing that I tried a little bit different is I made my own homemade Cliff Bars, kind of for both snacks and for breakfast. And they worked out okay. I'll probably do them again in the future. It's just nice to have some variety. But honestly, I could have just eaten peanut M&Ms the whole time and been happy. For lunch, because it was a canoe trip, I wanted to go a little bit heavier and have some actual like real food in the middle of the day. So I went with the wraps, the salami, and the cheese. Worked out really good. I always have like a craving for salty meat, and the salami works really good with that. The only problem is it's like super high in sodium, so I had to drink like a liter of water after every lunch. I guess there's nothing wrong with that. Really good. I probably kind of wanted some mustard or some sauce of some kind to put with that, but overall they worked really good. Dinner, same old, same old. Ground beef, rice, and vegetables was one. I dehydrated a chili, which was really good. It was a turkey chili that I ended up then putting like barbecue, like dust into it, which was really good. And what else I have? Oh, I bought mac and cheese, which was one of my favorite. Mac and cheese and salami, that was like the first night. That was really good, fairly lightweight dinner. I had a couple questions. People had questions for me. Let me clean this out. A couple people had questions for me about butter. How do you store it? This is about 1.5 sticks worth of butter that I put into this little Glad twist top container. And it's fine. It didn't go bad. It's still okay. It works just fine. So that's how I store that. And then I also have, if I can find it in here. Oh, aha, here we go. I also have just a few little bottles of seasoning, Montreal steak spice, salt, barbecue, and taco flavoring. That's enough to add a little bit of excitement to the mixture. So I was really happy with my cook system. It's basically the same thing that is in my ever new 900 pot review video. So check it out for more details. It's basically consists of a pot, alcohol stove, tiny little measuring cup, a foldable titanium spork, and 1 bottle of alcohol. Now the cool thing about this was the first time I've used this specific alcohol system for a long distance canoe trip. And this bottle, which I think is about 7 ounces, lasted the entire trip, even if I had enough left over for one more night. So really efficient, fuel efficient system. It worked great. Joe used the Bush Buddy, which I actually ended up liking quite a bit. That thing started quick, ran great, unlimited fuel supply, so that worked pretty good. The pot, we were kind of, we didn't know, we were catching a lot of fish, and the fish we caught, it was in the middle of the day. And in the past, when we caught fish, we would cook them on a rock or over the fire or whatever. But midday, you don't want to gather all the wood and try to start the fire and get coals and all that. So we ended up just cooking them in the pot, or Joe had a little fry pan on the top of his thing. And honestly, that worked out just fine. They cooked up in under like, I don't know, 2 minutes. That trout didn't take much. We just non-sticked it by putting butter all over it. And I got maybe a little bit of burnt on trout in the bottom, but for the most part, it worked just fine. So that's it for the gear. Overall, I think the gear worked pretty good. A few things I definitely wouldn't bring next time would be that 4.5 pound tripod there, a whole lot less tackle gear, and I would switch up probably my life vest just so it's a little bit easier to get at fishing gear. I'd rather have it on the life vest than trying to pull pliers out and the fishing tackle and all that kind of stuff. Less battery power, I brought way too much battery power, but overall, pretty good. And then weight balance was definitely an issue. When that Terra Humera got soaking wet and I had 6-7 pounds of heavy stuff at the top of the pack swinging me back and forth, that was definitely an issue. So those are kind of some of the gear lessons that I learned. Let's go take a look at the map, and I will point out the route where we had originally thought we were going to go, where we ended up going, and then a few little pointers on some of the portages. I hope you guys enjoyed the gear review information. Let's take a look at the maps. I use a map called Jeff's Maps. He has one for Temagami, Killarney, and Algonquin. They're really good. You'll see them in a lot of my videos. You can get them in paper form, and then you can also get them in online form. So let's take a look at that. In order to find it, just type in Jeff's Map, Temagami,
Click on it here. And this is, click full size. And this is all of Temagami. So there's a ton of info, so it takes a second or so to load. I'm going to zoom out and show you where we started. The basics of the Temagami map, you get like a little key way up here in the corner. And there's a road that kind of goes up the side. This is the main drag going up through the city of Temagami, and it's kind of on the right side of the park. Now, the Temagami region is made up of both provincial parks and Crown land. So this tan stuff, that's all the Crown land. This green stuff is all the provincial parks. Provincial parks, you have to sleep at designated campsites, and then you also need a permit, which I think is like $10 to $12 per day. So here's our basic route. We came down this road, which is called Beauty Lake Road or Gamble Road. You have to go like way up and around and come back down. This is like a 2-hour drive from the Temagami town down. I'm going to put a link in the description that has a real detailed explanation of how to get down this road right here, because it's got quite a few little twists and turns. You probably want to get lost. It's fairly well marked, but I'll put it in the description. One thing to mention, this road is gravel. It's pretty well maintained up until about here, and then it starts getting kind of choppy. We did do a 4-wheel drive truck. We'd be fairly confident you could take a car down there as long as it wasn't bad snow condition or anything like that. So we camped out right down here. We put in right down here at Chance Lake. Hopefully you guys can see this. Chance Lake, there's a little bit of a parking area. I mean, you can fit 4 or 5 cars and maybe park a few more up the side of this road, but not a whole lot of room. We were in, for the most part, we were in the Lady Evelyn smooth water area. So I'm going to go over what our route was, and then I'll also show you as we go down where we were supposed to go. So our first night, we paddled in just a little ways, camped out at this campsite. It was a decent size, nothing spectacular, but it wasn't too bad. Next day we got up, so day 2 we started coming down this river, coming down. One thing to mention is that when I was looking at the maps, is I was always looking and seeing, you can kind of tell which side of the river the portage is on. So this one's on the left side of the river, this one's on the left, or I'm sorry, this one would be on your right side as you're coming down, this one's on your left side. So 280, good to go, easily marked, no problems. This portage is not too terribly hard. It's a little tricky. There's some rocks in the middle, and it's this was the first one where we realized that, oh wow, this is not Algonquin. This is going to be fun. We fished this area quite a bit. I actually caught my brook trout right here. This 50-meter portage there's a waterfall right here, and then it's just rocks. Our campsite right here, this is where I cooked my brook trout, and this is also where we stayed on last night. Super nice campsite. You got the waterfalls and everything. Then you got all these little back-to-back ones. You got to be kind of careful about getting in and out with all the waterfalls and whatnot. This one's pretty tricky. And then we came down here to McPherson Lake, which was very pretty. The north end of McPherson Lake might be one of my favorite spots I've ever canoed in. It's super rocky through here. A lot of the burned out trees, so you can see real far. On our second night, we camped right here. We were catching quite a few the yellow perch and stuff through here. There were some streams coming down and mix it in, so it was good fishing. So this was campsite for night 2. Next day we proceeded on down. This put in right here was kind of fun. You had to put in like right in the middle of a rapid. And then this next one right here, you'll see it in my video. This one was challenging mainly because we actually had to like stop 50 yards in front of where the portage was and line it down, because otherwise you're going to go right over. So that was another challenging portage re-entry. This is the one we got lost on. You can't really tell it in the map, but there's one sign, like, this is going to over-exaggerate, but there's one sign here that had a yellow portage. We ended up having to go another 50 yards down to find the actual entrance to this portage. So that required some bushwhacking and 45 minutes to an hour of our lives lost. We came down here. Here's where Joe caught his brook trout at the top of Catherine Lake. If you ever see a fishing pole there, it's probably Joe's. We proceeded on down this way. Now, what we wanted to do is we wanted to go the south side of this, and we knew we were going to be returning through this side of the channel. We ran this rapid, runnable. I put a small crack in my boat, but no big deal. Still pretty good. This one was pretty easy. That one wasn't too terribly hard. Cabin Falls was a challenge. It was definitely a very difficult portage. That's one we were complaining about. You can see Hap Wilson's cabin here. It's pretty nice looking cabin. It's private property, so you can't like camp there or anything, but it was kind of cool. Came down this lake, very, very pretty. Looking back up at this fall, Cabin Falls is something else. Bridalveil Falls, this is where we stayed at night 3. There are 7 waterfalls here, some really killer views, and about 2 bajillion black flies. I don't remember this portage at all. Oh, this one wasn't too bad. That one was pretty simple. I mean, that was fine. Fat Man's you saw in the video explains it. Don't remember this one. Don't remember this one. This one we had a line. We had lunch here day 3, and this is when Joe started feeling really crappy. That's when his fever kicked in, went all kinds of bad. The 2-miler, this was the first, like, what I consider Algonquin-esque canoe route. So we started coming down here right about there, actually right there in that spot where that crosses that river is where I busted my shin up bad, and then it goes straight uphill, straight downhill, straight uphill, straight downhill. So that was not a terribly hard portage. It's a little steep towards the end. The first part's kind of deceiving is that it's pretty flat, really muddy though. We were feeling pretty bad, so we camped here on the night, was it night 3? Yeah, night 3, maybe 4. I'm starting to lose my mind. We camped here, nice campsite. We really thought there'd be pike up and through here, but no luck. That morning when we got up, we had a decision. Our original plan was that we were going to come out of this campsite, come down here, come to Wakamiki Lake or whatever, do this river, and what we were trying to get to is Chisokun Lake. I'm probably pronouncing this completely wrong. But we were trying to get down here. We wanted to see these trails, old growth, and then make our way back up here to Diamond. But we made a call. We got out, and we're like, do we want to go this way or do we want to go that way? And we decided instead of putting another like 17 clicks on, especially of a small winding river that who knows what the conditions are like, and a whole bunch of portages that could be potentially difficult, we decided, you know what, the trees have been there for 380 years or whatever. They're not going anywhere. We'll check it out some other time. With Joe feeling so bad, it just wasn't right. So that was one day we basically cut off of our trip. So on the morning after we stayed at this campsite, we proceeded down Diamond. It was, of course, wind in our face, chilly, but better than super hot and terrible. Made our way up here, took a break at this campsite, kept going up here. There's a few like stashed boats here. I'm guessing this is a popular area to fish. And then here's where the real fun came in. These 3 portages, you can see the portages on the route through Crowley Lake and Klutz Lake are in poor condition. Well, by poor you mean barely there. This one wasn't too bad. This one was challenging. There's tons of trees down, but it actually like had a path. This is the one that was, I never want to do this portage ever again. You can see it's in a marshy area and it exits into a marsh. We had to walk an easy 150 yards of just terrible mud, muck, sunk up into my waist, and from about here to here, the trail was basically non-visible. So that was a very challenging portage. 500 meters took us about an hour and a half plus, and that's with a lot of cursing and no brakes and just go, go, go. We made our way up to here, Willow Lake, very pretty. Tons of little islands. I wish we would have had some time to stay here and do some more fishing, but lots of islands, real pretty lake. This was like our largest open water section we had of the whole trip. We made our way up from like here up to here in about an hour and a half. So we booked it through there about 3.5 clicks. Stayed at this campsite, super nice. This was night 4, maybe 5. I can't quite keep track of them. Next morning we got up, and what our original plan was we would camp here, make our way up here, do Maple Mountain, and then camp out in Tupper Hobart. Well, as tired as we were getting, and as far as we had come, we really didn't feel like paddling an extra like 16 clicks. I don't know what is that, probably about 8 in, walk the thing, 8 back out. That just seemed like too much for what we wanted to do. So instead of coming back up here from this campsite, took a shortcut. We kind of came down here. Frank's Falls was the first time, I think, in 6 days that we saw any amount of people. So this lake right here through Sucker Gut comes out, and there are lodges and stuff over here. So this is the first time we saw people, and that was the only time we saw people really was on Frank's Falls. 1 fisherman and 2 groups of canoers. From there, as soon as we hit Frank's Falls, a torrential downpour, just pouring rain, lots of fun. Golden Staircase, do not underestimate this at all. The Golden Staircase is not fun. If the portage is named, it is not fun. Golden Staircase is literally like 3 to 4 foot tall, 5 steps in a row golden staircase. It's terrible. You got to do it once and you'll just never want to do it again. And in the pouring rain, it's even worse. This one, this is where I had, if you watch Joe's video, my little mini breakdown where I started hating life and questioned my very existence. Basically, this portage is nothing but just lining the canoe on some of the slipperiest, worst rocks in the world, and they're all covered in water. Nearly broke my ankle at least 3 times there. This one, no joke again, wasn't nearly as bad as the Golden Staircase, but no joke. These two were a little bit more civilized as far as they were flat. They were just kind of up in the woods, no craziness. The second to last night, we stayed here at Catherine Lake. We checked out these 2 campsites, and they weren't the best. They had stashed canoes. We're guessing because Lakeland, which is the name of the float plane operator in this region, probably kept their clients' boats there or whatever. So we stayed at this campsite. Nice flat area. It was okay. We really thought we'd get fish just because there's a waterfall here and a waterfall here, but we didn't get anything. So next day we got up, and we're basically, once we got to here, we were retracing our steps. We were going back up the river and into the wind. So we made our way back up. It was a lot easier going. We actually felt like it was the first time we got into our rhythm, mainly just because we knew where the put-ins were, where they take out and all that kind of stuff. And we finally kind of got our portaging down. So we blew through these like an hour and a half faster than what we had on the way down. So we went a lot quicker on the way back up. McPherson, pretty good current actually this time in this lake, mainly because there was a good headwind and it had rained quite a bit the day before, so it was definitely flowing. It was a bit of a workout. On our second to last day, we got up to this campsite and we said, we're trying to call it. We know that there's brook trout right here because I caught one. There's other waterfalls, super pretty. So we called it about 140 here on our last full day. Had a great camp there. That's Joe's favorite campsite in the world. It's really nice. And then the next morning we got up, and of course it started raining again, so we had to do this 340 again, which was medium hard. Again, this 280 we did, and then basically just a long paddle back up to the car where I was hoping we weren't going to find it all broken and destroyed. One funny thing is, as soon as we got into the car, we turned on the fan for just to get some air flowing, and it started making this terrible racket, and we couldn't figure out why. Well, I just this past week spent $120 at the Nissan dealership and had them disassemble the fan and find out that there were pine cones, paper towels, and sticks inside of the fan. So apparently, while leaving your car at the end of this road for 8 days, something decided to make a nest in it. From there, we had to travel about an hour from up this road and back out into civilization and pavement. So it was quite the time. If you guys have any questions about the map, hopefully that was helpful, just kind of doing a walk down. I wish I had that prior to this route. If you got any questions about the route or anything more like that, just put them in the comments, and I'll be sure to help out. If you got any gear questions, please let me know. Hopefully this is helpful. If you guys want a different format, I know this got kind of long, but there's a lot of gear. I tried to do the time breakdown in the description so you could at least find some, what you wanted quicker. If you want more or less info, let me know. If you want something different in the videos, just let me know. I appreciate all the comments and feedbacks and the discussion. Until next time, guys, have a good night.